Hey everyone, and welcome to the Always On Point podcast with Kristen Ambos, sponsored by my sister company, Point Mortgage. So glad to be here with you today. I was fortunate enough to speak recently at an investor seminar, and it was really great. I was on a panel. There were two different panels, and I was on a panel that I wanted to bring to you because it was all about investing. And what I realized sitting there is that so many people have questions on financing with investing. I got to speak with a lot of the people in the audience after on a one-to-one basis, which was really great. And one of the investing loan programs that's far underutilized that needs to be discussed more is the Family Opportunity Mortgage. So what does that entail? Well, the Family Opportunity Mortgage is a mortgage that you can do with either a dependent elderly parent, a disabled adult child, or a child in college. So those are the parameters that it really stands under. And the reason for that is because you will then be able to finance that home as a primary residence instead of an investment property. So let's just break that down a minute so you can, understand exactly what I'm saying there, because I'm sure a few of you your ears are raised. You've got these scenarios at home, whether you're taking care of a parent, whether the parent needs to move out of their home into something smaller. Maybe you want to buy a 2-unit where you live on one side and your adult child or, your elderly parent lives on the other side. You can do that. Let's say you own your own home now and you want to just buy a property, either a move down property or move up because your child's going to be in college. And rather than pay heavy room and board, you want to purchase a house for them to live into. You can do that. So this is a really great opportunity for you to be able to buy a second home within that 30 miles. So most second homes and investment properties, it doesn't matter where, but if it's a second home, it has to be outside of 30 miles. If it's an investment property, it can be anywhere, but the key factors between an investment and a primary residence are that in an investment property, if you're purchasing it, you typically need 20 to 25% down. With a family opportunity loan, you can do this purchase with as little as 5% down. So that's one thing to think about. You can't utilize as a first-time home buyer getting the 0 to 3% down in that case, but you can buy then this second home to have either your parent or your child live in for 5% down. So it gets around the large down payment. The second thing it does is it gets around the larger interest rates that are charged with investment properties. So about 2 to 3 years ago, when the housing market was really in a crunch, they changed second home and investment properties to needing more money down, and they actually started charging higher interest rates on them. The reason for that, just to take you back a second to help you understand, is because so many people were purchasing second homes as, or I should say purchasing second homes with as little as 5 to 10% down because second homes didn't need that. They also had the same interest rate as a primary mortgage. So at that time, you were able to buy a second home, a vacation property with lesser down payment and a really low interest rate. Tons of people did that. There was no caveat to say that you couldn't Airbnb them out. Hence the boom of Airbnbs. A lot of people took advantage of that saying, oh, well, I'll just buy this as my second home. For example, let's say you own a home in Green Bay and you really wanted to own a home in Door County. You could purchase a home in Door County. People did that saying that was going to be their quote unquote second home when really they had full intentions of Airbnb-ing it out, never really living there. So when that happened, the government stepped in because they were trying to save homes for primary residences because there was so many people then buying up these houses for Airbnb properties, VRBO, however you want to state it, short-term rentals. With that, they imposed some guideline changes that said, okay, if you want to buy that second home, you have to buy at a higher percent down or a higher interest rate. If you want a lower interest rate, you put more money down. So that really stopped them people buying second homes at such massive amounts. Investors came in and investors were also buying a ton of properties because investment interest rates were a lot lower than they are right now. So it was a great time for investors to buy. Part of those investments were definitely mom and pop investors. The other part of them were corporate investors who were buying out and beating out your local consumer because they were buying with cash. They were bidding over because they just knew that that home was going to appreciate. They too then could rent them out. So then the boom of the rental market came. I'm a huge fan and a proponent of investors, mom and pop investors. I am an investor myself, so I understand that logic. However, the government wasn't wrong because there was a huge constriction then on homes that were available for people who wanted to buy them as their primary residences. So let's now move on from that investment and that second home. If people wanted to purchase a home for their parent or for their child to live in, they would have to buy it as an investment property. The government then came in and said, okay, let's give a loan program that will help families with their adult children, with their, retired elderly parents, without them having to be in the restrictions, giving a little bit of a caveat to them in order to be able to buy. Family Opportunity Mortgages were born. And I love this program. As I stated a little bit ago, it is a very underutilized program. Again, you can dip your toe in the investing world with putting, again, a retired elderly parent. There is no age restriction on that. However, think about it as, logic. An underwriter is going to look at it if you are a 20-year-old child buying a home for your 45 or 50-year-old parent who's still working full-time. Probably going to not work. However, if you're a 30, 40-year-old child buying a home for your 60 to 70-year-old parent, okay, that makes sense. They're now retired. They're on a fixed income. They might not qualify now for a home on their own because they're on that fixed income, even though they can afford to pay for their own place to be. This is where you as a child can come in and help them qualify to buy that house without them, having to pay astronomical rates and fees. So that's where it's the best of both worlds, where you're taking that parent, that child, you're putting them in a home, and you're able to then do less down, less interest rate, making it more affordable for them. Same thing on, let's say, a college campus. College kids, I did one for my friend a couple years ago. Her son was in college. He had enough money to pay his room and board, but just like anything else and inflation, college campuses and the landlords around the college campuses started just skyrocketing prices because they could. Really, a lot of this is predatory and price gouging because it's possible to do. So this now allowed a parent to come in, buy a property for their college student, pay for that property for their student while their college student lives there, whether it be on campus, right outside of campus, in the same city. That part doesn't matter. Now, you have to follow conventional guidelines. This is a conventional loan program. So I want to be very clear on that, meaning that there are credit limit restrictions, credit score restrictions. You have to have the down payment has to be yours. It can't be a gift from another family member then helping you buy, things of that nature. Happy to walk through all of that with you if this is something that interests you. But what I realized when we started talking about this in the investor class is that a lot of people have a need for this, but they don't know about it. And in fact, one lady walked up to me after the fact who she researched it. She knew about it. She wanted to do exactly this for her mom. And a loan officer told her that that loan program was not in existence. So that tells me that the loan officer doesn't know all the loan programs out there. They don't have the loan program available, or they just simply don't want to even deal in that loan program. So I'm telling you this because it is in existence. It is there. Her and I are now meeting next week. We're going to set that up, and we are going to make sure that she can purchase. She already owns her own home. Her mom is, again, on a fixed income. So this is the prime example. Her mom's on a fixed income, can't qualify on her own. This allows her to pull out of her equity, use that for the down payment on a house for her mom, put her mom in a home that is something that she can live in, something that's small enough for her, and something where they can control the rents for her instead of being concerned that rents and landlords are going to continue to price gouge. Really great option to have. So that was one thing that I realized was probably a niche that a lot of people don't know about, and I wanted to bring that to light. So really great niche program. Again, Family Opportunity Mortgage. If you're looking for something like that, let me know. I'll walk you through it. We'll have a conversation. Just a great program. The other part of an investing program that is out there that a lot of people don't realize and don't know about that I found the other evening when we were speaking is the DSCR loan program. You might have heard me talk about it little bit by little bit, but I wanted to get into it because these are two programs that are wonderful for investing and something that's out there. So DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. I know that's a lot. You don't have to remember that. But what you do want to remember is that it takes no income to qualify. You can purchase that investment property, and as long as the rents on the property are $1 or more than the loan or the payment itself on that property, you qualify. Now, there's even some loan programs that'll go to 75% of the payment. So for example, let's just say the payment's a flat $1,000 a month. That means if you have rents at $750 a month or more, you can qualify. The reason why I like to say at least $1 more or above is because that's where the interest rates get really good on that program. Obviously, if the rents aren't covering the payment, that's a risk to the investors, so they charge a premium for that. Are they doable? They are. Is it your best bet? Probably not. If you could do $1,001 or more on the rents, you're going to be in a much better position on that interest rate. So I wanted to bring that up because those two loan programs are phenomenal programs that are right now just very underutilized. Is the interest rate a little bit higher on the DSCR program than a conventional? Sure, of course. The reason why, though, is again, the risk layer. We're not using any of your income. You're simply qualifying on your credit score and the amount of rent that's going to be taken on that payment. Now, let's say the rent is going to be $1,500 versus the $1,000 payment. The more rent you make, the lower the interest rate goes. So the more you can show that you can get for rent, the better off you are. How do we do that? Well, one way is by taking over the leases. If you're going to buy that investment property, you're going to take over the leases. If the leases, we're going to stick with that $1,000 payment a month. If the leases are, again, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, the higher it is, then the lower the interest rate. Let's say you're buying a vacant property and there is no lease agreement on there. That's okay. We can do that too. But then what we have to do is we have to order a rent schedule from the appraiser. The appraiser then takes the active investment properties in that market with the active lease terms and rent payments. And that's how they determine this property and what the likely rents will be. If the likely rents will be that same 100% of the payment or that $1,000 or more, your rate's going to be better. If it's a little bit less, like I said, up to 75% or $750 in this case, then you can still qualify. The rate's just going to be higher again. Remember, investing is all about risk, right? It's risk and reward. The lower the risk, the better the reward in our case. So that's why we want to make sure that we're eliminating all risks possible. Doesn't mean we have to eliminate them all, but then you do pay a bit of a premium on that. Most people who are investors or are thinking about investing understand that concept. And the easiest way I can say, and I have said it to clients, is put yourself in the investor's shoes. Would you lend this couple $100,000 to somebody unless they could guarantee you X, Y, and Z? Can they guarantee you credit score? Can they guarantee you down payment? Can they guarantee you what the rents are, right? If they can guarantee you all of those things, then the risk is low. The reward is a lower interest rate. Simple as that. Risk versus reward. Okay. So those are just two really great investment programs, again, that are far underutilized that we can utilize for investors. The other one that, again, is something that people don't talk about are bank statement loans. Bank statement loans are a great option as well. If you're self-employed and you want to get into a rental game, you want to get into a primary residence of your own, but you write off so much on your taxes that you don't know if you'll qualify on paper for that property, bank statement loans are great. If we can utilize the bank statements with the deposits to show what the income is, we can calculate an income to qualify based on that. So these are just some really great investment investment programs that I wanted to talk to you about because so many people are in a bit of a predicament when it comes to actually qualifying for a home loan, and then they give up and think that they can't do it. Sometimes the loan officer tells them that they can't do it when they can, and sometimes they just don't offer those loan programs. I don't think a lot of banks and credit unions locally have these types of programs on hand. These are mostly by mortgage bankers, such as Point Mortgage. Those are considered, again, your IMB or your independent mortgage banks. We have so many loan programs out there, so many options with investors. Investors want people to invest in real estate. They do. They want to put their money into real estate, and instead of buying all the houses themselves, they put their money into mortgage-backed securities. They put their money into the interest rates of these loan programs. You borrow the money, you pay it back through the interest rate. That's how it works. So these are just some really great tools that you can utilize to help with your scenario. So if you are self-employed, there's some options out there that we could utilize. If you are looking to get in the real estate game and have that self-employment, that LLC, that property management, and you want to start putting properties into your tax returns for that either income, passive income, a lot of different, maybe you just want the long game of the appreciation, these types of programs help get you there. Going back, the family opportunity, again, a way to invest, a way to put a parent into a home, a way to put a college kid or a disabled adult who could very well take care of themselves, but just maybe doesn't have the means to be able to qualify on their own. These are ways you can use to qualify to get into the real estate game and to be able to do it with good, sound loan programs. All of everything I've told you has an option for a 30-year fixed loan. Family opportunity will allow you down to 5% down. The DSCR, somewhere between 20 and 25. And then the bank statement loan can go to 10% down. But again, risk versus reward. Do you have a big down payment? Do you have reserves? Do you have a good credit score? Those types of things. So if you're interested in talking about, and strategizing, that's my keyword this year because I really love being able to strategize with clients. I'm realizing how many holes there are in the mortgage market when it comes from loan officers not knowing or understanding different loan products. So that's what I want to do this year is bring you everything I can that makes sense, that is an option that maybe you don't know about. So if one of those or somebody who would love to know more about one of those, please share this podcast, subscribe so you never miss. They fall every Wednesday. They come out. Bring out, put that subscribe in so that you get notified right away. Listen to us. And again, we want to know what you have to say too. So don't be afraid to email me at kambos@pointmtg.com. And then you can, get me what you're interested in hearing more about. Or if there's a scenario you have that you're just not finding answers for, would love to get it answered for you. Kristen Ambos, even if you Google me, you can find my name, you can find my number, you can find my email address there. It's always in the links as well. So thank you. Again, we're going to keep bringing you topics like this so that way you can help expand your mortgage knowledge. You can understand what loan products are out there that are different. And maybe, just maybe, you find a way that you want to get involved. So just anytime you want to talk, give me a shout. Thank you so much for allowing me to come into your vehicles, your homes, your computers as you're sitting at work and just listening and talking about these programs. If you're a real estate agent listening and you have a client that fits any of these needs and they just aren't sure, share this with them. Have them call me. Let's find a way to make sure they get what they need here in 2026 when we're talking about home financing and buying and investing in real estate. Thank you again. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.